Leads me to Nigel.
Hmm.
When he heard of his brother's passing,
Hmm.
he was incarcerated.
Yes.
How's he dealing with that?
I don't know. He won't talk to me about it.
Mm.
He did when I gave him the news. It was kind of a hassle. Well, it wasn't a hassle, but it took about 3 days because I wanted to tell Nigel before he heard it anywhere else. But there was some kind of mix up at the prison, and I was scheduled to go and tell him, but then something happened. They wouldn't let me in, so I had to wait and do it all over again. Phone
So he,
calls had to be made to get me back in there
he wasn't able to come to go to the funeral. He was
because
not
he hadn't been processed
processed.
right.
Okay.
Right, we wouldn't let him go.
Um,
So that hurt me, and me telling him I had to tell him behind a glass. They couldn't like just put us in a room because I wanted so desperately to put my arms around him, but he just was like, I mean, I could see the shock in his eyes,
right.
but I think he was trying to hold back for me, So
And right there, that's when we start lobbying.
hmm
That's the grounds right there to start lobbying. We have these officials who say they represent the community, represent the people. Um, Devastating news as that. You shouldn't have to tell that child, you know, um, your brother is gone through glass or through
through a phone,
the
yeah,
phone.
yeah.
So these are the subtle, the little things,
Hmm.
but it's not that little when that's devastating news.
Right,
So these are the things that we have to that you can work on,
right.
that we can work on.
Hmm.
And I know people say, well, these guys, oh, they did time and they did things that they made poor choices and they're there.
Hmm.
So yeah, let them do their time. But still, it's still a human being. It's still
Hmm.
someone's job.
Exactly.
What Oh, so the book.
Hmm.
Let's get to 4 a.m. And every time I see 4 a.m., it reminds me of my son Jordan, when at times he would be out late,
Hmm.
and all he can do is give it to God. He's a young DJ. All he can do is give it to God and say, you know what? Okay, God got him, because you can't worry anymore. At first I used to worry. You can't sleep. I got bags under my eyes because of him. I should punch him from time to time when I see him, but that's another story. But at what point you decided, you know what, I have to write about this. I have to let people know about Marcus and his story.
Well, the book started out to be my journal,
Oh,
so it wasn't intended to be a book.
okay.
That's why I'm talking the way that I'm talking, because I didn't expect anyone else to see it, to read it. So after about 2 years of writing, which is about when a book ends, after about a 2-year period, that's when the light bulb went off, and I said, I think someone needs to understand what it's like
Yes.
as a parent to go
Yes.
through what I went through. They might not always agree with it because I do say some things that people do, and they know that they're doing it, but they don't want. I'm sure they're not going to admit to it.
Right.
But they need to understand that everything isn't for everybody.
Which leads me to another question: was justice served with Marcus's? I mean, his situation
As
was
far as
justice.
I'm concerned, no. Justice will never be served. As far as I'm concerned.
Right.
But they did get They did get. There was 3 people involved. They were arrested fairly quickly, within 2 weeks. Actually, they kind of knew who it was, but they had to put their case together. So they were arrested and charged within a matter of 2 weeks.
How does it feel? How do you feel? We talk about black on black violence, crime.
Mm-hmm.
I know you went to court, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you saw these 3 young men.
Mm-hmm.
Were they Marcus's age, kind of roughly?
Kind of roughly, yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What'd you feel?
Hatred,
Okay.
anger.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for me writing, I really wouldn't even remember it. There was times when I wrote that I didn't realize I was writing because it was just everything in that time period was just really a blur. So
Did they show any type of remorse when they were in the court? I mean, what do you think? Did you feel anything when you looked at them? What?
yeah, I do remember feeling anger. Um, One, the main person that shot my son, I want to say he showed remorse, but at the time I didn't see it. Um, the other two I didn't really get to because they all went to court differently.
Right.
They weren't all there at one time. But when it came down to it, two of them got conspiracy, and Delaware only holds a 2-year conspiracy law, so I was told. And by the time we went to court, it was basically they walked. One had to stay in jail because he had shot somebody a few months before my son, so he had to, answer to that. And he got 10 years for that case, but for my son, he only got 2 years conspiracy.
Okay. That's sometimes I am in the middle of the road with the work that I do,
Mm-hmm.
because many times in the past, the child who died, I know,
Mm-hmm.
I knew him,
Mm-hmm.
and the parents who are coming to my bookstore to send books for their child who shot the one who died,
Mm-hmm.
I know them also.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I'm always in the middle of the road because I know both parties.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I'm listening to you, and I believe it was last year sometime there was a young brother whom I knew for like 18 years.
Mm-hmm.
He was on the run because he shot someone at a party.
Mm-hmm.
But this young guy would come to my store and leave his party flies. He was a promoter.
Mm-hmm.
And someone came and said, oh, you know what? Yeah, he's on the run and he killed someone, da da da, And I'm saying, well, I know that child. He's a respectful guy. He was always respectful to me.
Mm-hmm.
But now he was considered dangerous
Mm-hmm.
and a murderer
Mm-hmm.
on the run.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm in the store and I'm saying, okay, whom do I cry for?
Mm. Yeah.
And I wrote this poem, Whom Do I Cry For? This long poem because I'm like, okay, should I say anything, not say anything? I don't want to offend anyone, but whom do I cry for?
Mm-hmm.
I cry for all of the children.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm listening to you, and, so that's why sometimes, I shouldn't be in the middle of the room because I always say it's humanity.
Mm-hmm.
Because some of these same guys, I may have sent a book to.
Right.
Who knows?
Right.
But I say all that to say, as a people, and as officials and politically inclined and leaders, I don't think that we are, as you mentioned, we are not doing enough to at least to see that each year things are getting better and we're losing less of our children and more. What would you like to see happen? Actually, let me not even go there. What are you doing now? I mean, what's your purpose now?
My purpose now is to let other parents know that, because I was in that state where, what am I going to do? I can't get through this. I'm not going to make it. I had the suicidal thoughts, and I didn't know how I was going to cope.
Right.
And I know other parents are having those thoughts too. And I just want to be an example for them.
Right.
I'm still here. And even though I'm doing all these book promotions and people ask me, well, how can you constantly talk about it? And to be honest with you, sometimes I have to step out myself in order to do it.
Right. I can understand.
So it's, and that may seem, well, what, you're being phony and you're not being true to yourself. I am being true to myself. Mm-hmm. My goal is to Marcus. That's my first priority is to Marcus. I don't know if I told you, but I wanted to start, I am going to start a podcast called Not Just a Statistic, because he is more than just a statistic. Right. He's my son. That's the same as everybody else who lost a child. That's your child. They're more than just a number on a court paper.
Exactly.
So that's, I just want to let other parents know, look, you can do it. You can do it.
Well, I think it's very brave of you talking about your emotions. Not so much Marcus, because we can talk about our children from days. Yeah. But I know, I'm a boohoo person. I boohoo for anything, from time to time, because I'm trying to hold back the tears for,
right.
at times.
Right.
But I admire you for being vocal, and I would encourage you until you are no longer here, you represent your son
Absolutely.
very well.
Absolutely.
You talk about him every second of the day, you know, and I think Marcus is saying, yeah, Mom, you're doing a great job. You know, I know he
I
is.
hope he is.
Yes,
I hope
he is. I know Marcus is saying, Mom, you're doing a great job.